I'm here to share some of my favorite experiences with you. I really do enjoy traveling, and the more remote and wild, the better. So this year, March, I went up to a place called Svalbard, which is basically right on top of the world, right near to the North Pole. It's the northernmost human settlement, and it's really like a stark wilderness of ice and snow. It's like totally white wherever you look. There's absolutely no trees. There's a couple of little tufts of grass here and there that the reindeer eat on, but nothing other than ice and snow. Very much similar to the South Pole, the Antarctic, that we saw earlier in the presentation. It was also damn cold. I got to see snow for the first time, which is quite cool, I must say. And yeah, the temperatures went down to about minus 28 degrees without the wind chill, so it was freezing. Cool. And then so the people up there carry rifles because hungry polar bears do attack them. So essentially, you can't go out, just out of town walking about unless you have protection, because they do stalk you and jump on you. It's quite phenomenal. So then, why did I actually go there? So I basically went up for a very short appointment. It was exactly 2 minutes and 37 seconds on the 21st of March. So it was just outside of town on the frozen tundra, and I was joined by about 2,000 other people for the same purpose, and it was totally well worth it. And yeah, it was quite a trip. Definitely spectacular. Cool. So let's move on. So then my previous appointment was also very short. It was for the 13th of November in 2013. That was up in the Australian outback near Cairns in Queensland. So that one was very well attended. About 25,000 fellow enthusiasts came along from all over around the world, and we converged on the location at the allocated time. And basically there was a 7-day festival that was organized and arranged or prepared for about 4 years before the time for this one spectacular event of 4 minutes and 2 seconds. Okay, so on the July the 11th, 2010, another such appointment took me to Rapa Nui, which is the most remote human settlement in the world, basically, the most remote community. That one was for exactly 5 minutes and 20 seconds. And for 5 minutes, 20 seconds, I traveled all the way across the Pacific Ocean to the Isla de Pascua, or Easter Island, as most people know it. Right, so what would have brought me to all these places to travel so far for such a short amount of time? I'm sure you might be wondering. So, arguably, I'm part of an unorganized cult, and it probably is one of the oldest cults in the world. You could say it predates even the oldest profession that we know of, right? So now I've been to 6 of these events so far. My 7th is set for March next year in a place called Sulawesi in Indonesia. I know exactly what to expect. I know that I'm going to see many of my familiar friends. I don't even have to ask if they're going. They're all going to be there. And I know we'll be absolutely enthralled as ever before. Cool. So then how far would you be willing to travel for just a couple of minutes of a mind-blowing show? As you can see, there's my little itinerary. That's what I've experienced so far. And those are the places that I've traveled to. So it must be something that's quite significant to draw me and all my fellow travelers there. Cool. So now, from the earliest murmurings of our unified experience, as our earlier ancestors gathered to share their stories about survival and wonder, and around their little fires and in their caves, I'm sure the questions of greater things and gods, must have arisen from somewhere. But looking up at the night sky and seeing the weaving stars going around night after night it's impressive. It's quite thought-provoking. So occasionally a comet will fly over in a stoic track across the night sky, and they're shooting stars, twinkling and brief. Those are great, but they kind of expected. There's nothing profound about them. But then, one day, as the moon passed before the sun and the day turned to night, that must have made them cower in terror and fear that the world was going to end. And this, pretty much like the first spark that brought fire to man, the singular event must have provoked, some fear of a greater divinity in our place in the universe. And so I believe that the gods were born in the path of the totality of the solar eclipse. So my first experience was on the 11th of August 1999, along with about 15,000 other freaks, in a place called Dagpusta in Azora in Hungary. It was the first large solar eclipse festival gathering. So that was an absolutely life-changing experience, and it totally turned me into what's called an umbraphile or shadow chaser. So I was like, I mean, standing there and transfixed by this like flaming eye of the sun, the corona. It's like a god staring at you. It's like the eye of Sauron in a way. It was absolutely humbling, completely humbling. So yeah, I just sat there enthralled, just realizing how insignificant we are in this tiny little part of, the tiny little solar system in but one of many sprawling galaxies in the universe. It's absolutely profound. Cool, so I'm sure many of you have seen or taken a peek at a partial solar eclipse. You get these funny little cardboard glasses, all the warnings written on, don't stare directly at the sun, etc., etc. They come out with newspaper publications if you've been in any region of the world where such partial eclipses are happening. In fact, there's one here in September this year, and I'm sure the publications will give you the little glasses if we're lucky. So you can't stare directly at the sun for anything longer than a quick moment, because you will damage your eyesight. Essentially, the sun's photonic emission is so powerful that it will burn out your retina's photoreceptors. So be warned. Your mother was absolutely right to warn you about it. Okay, so there are some safe ways to view the eclipse. Welder glasses that are graded at 15 are safe. Okay, the eclipse glasses, of course, and box projection. I mean, we've heard of all these weird ways of looking at the eclipse. Some that come to mind are, compact CDs and stacked sunglasses, etc. Those don't work. You will damage your eyes. And there's also tea bags. And I've always wondered, are they wet or dry tea bags? You put them up and you stare at this thing, and But as you can see by the little image on the right, the sun, most people just look up at it and go, oh, there's this little flaming ball, and there's something eating away at it. Interesting. They look for a bit and they go, yeah, what's the big deal? And they just get on with their lives. Okay, so only when you get to about 75% of total cover, when the moon's covered 75% of the sun, can you see any perceivable change in the daytime brightness. Okay, and you need even more before there's a drop in temperature. So now, the closer you get to path of the totality, which is the center line of the full eclipse, where the full shadow hits the Earth, the more pronounced and eerie the changes become. And then only at about 99% can you take off your glasses and start to look at the sun, as the last little sliver of light disappears behind the moon. And that's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the day just turns to night and all the stars come out to play, and you just stand there completely transfixed and awed. So comparing a partial to a total eclipse, it's like saying, hey, I went up to Joburg and there was a little bit of snow on the ground. I've seen snow. Compared to going up to the Alps and being in a snow blizzard, it's really that profound. Great. Right, so, and what's interesting to know is, but other organisms, like in the animal kingdom, they react very strangely to this. I mean, they don't really know what's going on. So the birds kind of stop singing, the dogs stop barking, the pigs stop snorting, and all the animal kingdom just kind of starts to go dead silent and acknowledges that something profound is happening. And in silent respect of the infinite universe's powerful impact on their diurnal rhythms, they prepare to go to sleep. And then just as they're about to get to sleep, suddenly they're waking up again and they think, hey, somebody's playing a big trick on us. It's quite an interesting thing to notice. So the cock has to start crowing again, the lamb has to start bleating, and but for us it's phenomenal. I mean, we can experience it, and we can engage with the experience and postulate and muse and consider, and we know we don't have to go to sleep. We know we can stand there and just bask in the glory of the universe. Cool. So then the temperature also drops quite significantly. So normally, even a tropical climate, you do have to take warmer clothing, and this big wind starts to pick up, and the shadow starts racing towards you. It completely knocks your socks off. So how does this eclipse actually work? So what forces need to be at play to bring this profound spectacle to our, the stage of our perception? It's quite simple. It's caused by the moon's shadow being cast by a narrow moving band on the Earth's surface. So when the moon gets between the Earth and the sun. So that's as simple as that. It's just a big shadow which is cast by a large ball that's orbiting our planet, with an even bigger ball that's emitting fiery photons at us. But the ratios involved are really quite spectacular. First, since the moon does travel in an elliptic orbit, which is tilted or inclined at 5 degrees to what we call the solar orbit or the ecliptic plane, the passing shadow usually just misses the Earth, because of the angles. But when it does line up, it's just absolutely phenomenal. So when you say when the moon crosses over the ecliptic plane, then it all lines up. Then the shadow of the umbra in the eclipse sweeps across Earth's surface at a staggering rate of 1,700 kilometers per hour. And it carves a shadow track between 100 and 160 kilometers wide, depending on where the moon is in its orbital cycle, the distance from the Earth. So people get onto ships and they jump into planes, they try to chase the eclipse, to try get a few more seconds experience. Well, let me tell you, if you want to spend that money and you have so much money to blow, go for it. But looking through a little tiny portal window on a plane just doesn't justify the experience of having your feet firmly planted on the ground and just being part of the universe. There we go. So beyond the shadow path, so there's a lesser and partial eclipses visible across, it's about 3,000 kilometers. So the guys in the peripheries, those poor suckers, that'll only catch a sliver of a glimpse. We just laugh at them because we're sitting on the center line and just playing under the darkened sun time and time again. But what does amaze me is how the sun and the moon, they appear to be exactly the same size from our vantage point, a puny little human perspective here on the surface of the Earth. So this is quite phenomenal because now the ratios involved, the number 400 comes up a few times. So the sun is, 1,400,000 kilometers in diameter. The moon is 400 times smaller at 3,475 kilometers. Okay, so they're 400 times difference. And the average distance to the moon is 380,000 kilometers. And to the sun, you multiply by 400 and you get 150 million kilometers. So 400 and 400, 400 times bigger and 400 times further. So it's actually perfectly placed for us. It's as if, we're just very lucky to be experiencing this. So we have nearly 2,000 exoplanets, which are planets in orbit around stars other than our sun that have been discovered since 18th of July this year. But we've got no way to determine whether any of these have any orbiting satellite companions. If they've attracted any, or if they're still like single and speed dating any regional satellitas, hoping to draw in the special honey with their impressive size and irresistible power of attraction. So I can imagine like how a lonely planet out there just like heaves in sighs. Oh, for that day to capture me, a fine young beautiful moon, to love and cherish as my own, to stay true in my orbit and watch over me. Oh, what I would not do for this here in the loneliness of endless space. All I get are these pesky little meteorites so whizzing about and smashing into me with no damn respect. When will I woo to me my very own moon? So yes, so it's a... So we don't know if of those 2,000 planets whether they have an orbiting companions yet. But then there's also, we have to factor in the size and the distance for this to come about, for the perfect match. So now some say a perfect match made in heaven. Well, we do wonder because the staggering improbability of this convenient solar arrangement does make for quite a compelling motivation in favor of big grand hand in play of the games of origin and creation that we silly humans still fervently argue and fight wars over. Cool. So, since we only know for sure about ourselves as an intelligent species, sentient species in this universe, we can't just ask around the galactic neighborhood to say, hey, does anybody else know where we could find this kind of arrangement that can produce an eclipse? I wish we could, but we can't. So, most people think it's no big deal. I do beg to differ. It is a very special and unique arrangement that we have on this planet. The science fiction author Ian Banks, he agrees entirely, and he speaks of this kind of amazing improbability of this kind of arrangement happening in a long passage in his book Transition. I'll quote you the end of the passage where he sums it up by saying, so that's where you look for aliens in the course of an eclipse totality track. When everybody else is looking awestruck up at the sky, you need to be looking around for anyone who looks weird, or overdressed, or isn't coming out of their RV or moored yacht with the heavily smoked glasses. If they're anywhere, they're there, and as distracted and so as vulnerable as anybody else staring up in wonder at this astonishing, breathtaking sight. So I do often wonder whether I have interacted with any extra-dimensional beings in the plain field of the shadow path. Because looking around at the many bizarre and eccentric friends I've made and been blessed to have known over the years, I've kind of wondered if any of them are not leading up to having their space shuttle, parked behind the volcano prominence somewhere. But eventually, I've kind of ruled this out by seeing them again and again and hearing their typically human tales of, life and its chores and, efforts and et cetera, et cetera. But then there are those really odd characters that I've met only once, the really weird ones. You never see them again. And it's interesting that none of them have Facebook profiles. So, and then, and I do recall on several occasions, some of them coming out with a generous offer of space cakes, anyone. Yeah, it does make perfect sense to arrange a massive party and festival in and around this amazing event. So it's a great way to gather all the weary travelers to a prime viewing location, to feed and to nurture them, to basically accommodate and entertain them, and unifying all of us in the Eclipse tribe and give us the type of environment that we wish to enjoy for, in preparation and post that singular amazing event. So it's also a very convenient vehicle for traveling, I've found. It just simplifies all your travel arrangements when you're going to a foreign place, because you've got a fixed destination which is shared by many fellow travelers, which you're likely to encounter on the way, and they're just as excited as you. So you can tend to team up and work together so you don't get lost on the way, which is great. So now, what I would advise with any budding and inspiring Eclipse travelers is to go online, find a festival. There's the next one in Sulawesi. Get an early bird discount ticket because it is a lot cheaper going, it gets expensive closer to the time. You have set dates to plan for and aim for. You've got low cost camping and accommodation sorted, and you'll have hopefully decent facilities and essential services right there on site. Great range of food, drinks, and a variety of entertainment, really good entertainment, right around the actual eclipse. And it really is an awesome multicultural environment for meeting fantastic new friends and for reuniting with your older eclipse buddies. And believe me, the same peeps come time and time again. It's absolutely wonderful. So it's a great platform also for launching further post-eclipse travels and adventures into the regional countryside, because you've interacted with new people, you've got new information, new resources, and people to pair up with. So it's highly recommended. That is a photo from Svalbard that a dear friend of mine took of the totality. You can see those little spots there. They're called the little diamond beads. That was like the first time I'd seen those. So alas, nothing does last forever, as they say. And so it's the same with the eclipse. It's not going to be around forever, because the moon is gradually moving away from the Earth, and so it appears smaller and smaller and smaller as it goes. Eventually it'll be too small to cover the sun entirely, and you won't be able to see anything. So you guys had better start packing your bags and preparing, and you better hurry, because this opportunity won't be around forever. Just to give you an idea, so you've got some time frames, the rate at which the moon is moving away is between 3 and 5 centimeters a year, which gives us approximately 500 million years. So don't procrastinate and don't faff, because you're going to miss it. Okay, cool. So now, my personal objective here in my life is to basically complete 1 hour under the mysterious shadow path. So far, I have 21 minutes and 13 seconds, and I'm just over a third of the way for my lifetime. And I invite you all to come with me to join us in Sulawesi next year in Indonesia on the 9th of March at 8:38 a.m. or to any eclipse thereafter. So come see the spectacle that draws us from all corners of the globe and all the Earth's cultural diversities. Come stand with us, united once more under the twinkling daylight stars, to enjoy another cosmic day. Cool, thank you.